Well, howdy, hey, everybody, and welcome back to Dan's Pro Shop. I'm your man, Dan. And today, believe it or not, this is actually like a heavily requested thing. I catch this in the comments all the time because I've put out some shorts here and there about camper tips and tricks. So here we are today with the crap that I feel should be essential in your camper RV getup. So let's just get into it, shall we? So guys, we're going to start this as the best way I can think of. We're going to start with the essentials, like the stuff that you definitely need to have. And I feel like most of this is common knowledge stuff, but hey, why not put it out there? If you're a first timer, this is good stuff to know. I mean, everybody was a first timer at some point. I certainly was, and there's a heck of a learning curve. So if you can get ahead of that before you find yourself in a spot like, oh, I wish I had that, well, hopefully we can avoid that circumstance. And then we're going to work our way up to the stuff you really don't need, but I'm an overkill kind of guy. Let's just say you're driving a Pontiac Grand Prix. I know that's probably a bad example, but you don't necessarily need to carry an extra alternator with you. But hey, by golly, if you need one, it's in the trunk. Yeah, that's the kind of prepared I like to be. Overkill, yeah, but yeah, So we'll start out here on the outside. And I don't know, there's no rhyme or reason to this. We're just doing it as I get there. So if you guys are familiar with campers or RVs, or if you ever bought one, whenever these things are bone stock, they are bone stock. They are really lacking like all the creature comforts and stuff that you want out of, something like this for home stuff. And yeah, boys are hanging out with me today, just in case you was wondering. This guy right here, this little white thing next to the door, this is one of those interior exterior thermometers, because whenever we get in there, I'll show you what I'm talking about. The majority of the stock thermostats that come in these things for the HVAC system, it is just an old analog slide gauge thermometer thing, hot, cold fan, yada, yada, yada. There is no gauge of what the temperature actually is inside versus outside. So this thing, I don't know, 30 bucks, Amazon or whatever, stick it on the wall inside. You know what outside is. It's just nice to have. And speaking of Amazon, don't worry. I got all this crap from Amazon. Trust me, I got all of it from Amazon. I'm not trying to blow the budget here, but it's all good stuff to have. Moving on up. Boy, that's getting more difficult with the years go by. But moving on up, just like the Jeffersons. Now, I know a lot of these come standard, but some don't, like this one. A swing out hand railing for helping you getting in and out of this thing. This guy came factory with just the grab handle here in the middle, which is fine and dandy. But you see what's happening right here? It helps little ones and older ones navigate this thing because of how tall these are off the ground. It's just an unnecessary evil, but this is I don't know if it's a Furrion or Lippert or I don't know. Yet again, another Amazon find that's easy to install, relatively cheap, and good to have. And moving on up even a little bit more, the door handle. You guys are familiar. I'm going to sound like a broken record going through this thing. Friends don't let friends ride stock. I'm talking about. OEM's fine to get you out the door, but you don't want to stay stock the whole time, right? So these factory stock door handles that come with these things are just severely lacking. Not to mention the keys that come with these things. There's only so many of those keys. Like I actually found that out by accident because you can go on Amazon and buy like extra keys for your door lock as long as you have the number. So, I mean, yes, there may be a gazillion different combinations, but chances are somebody else out there in the world has the same key as you if you have the factory deadbolt in your camper. So one of these aftermarket, touchpad things, not only is it awesome because you no longer need a key, this particular one uses a fob or the keypad to get into this thing. It's super nice. You don't need nothing. It lights up, it beeps, it tells you what it's doing. And actually, I made a video specifically on this thing. I will link it up here and in the description if you want more in-depth information about this. But again, it's another good, awesome add-on. Now, moving on down the line here. Like I told you guys, there is no rhyme or reason to this. We're kind of just going around so I can name off stuff that you need / I feel you need. This guy right here. And you will see something similar to it on the other side when we get there. This is like a bug screen. The whole point of this is to keep critters out of your hot water tank area. Yes, I know it's not impervious, but anything you can do to help yourself from like letting bees get in there and build a nest in the vent and everything in the off season, it's just, these things are cheap and so worth it. Just anything you can do to keep Mother Nature out of there, to keep your stuff clean and operating, it's a good idea. Well, guys, welcome to the inside here. This is the other side of that thermometer I was telling you about. This is a lacrosse inside outside thermometer. It's super simple, nothing to it. I just wanted something to accurately and digitally tell me what temperature it actually is in here. Because this guy here, it's just a sliding scale in increments of 10 degrees. It's not the best in the world. Yes, it works, but it doesn't give you an accurate representation of what's going on. So now I know for a fact what temperature it is in here and outside. It's just, dude, it's really worth it. Moving on over into the kitchen slash control center. I know compared to most RVs, this is nothing, but almost every RV has something similar to this. And you can tell that it is just kind of like a bone stock thing because of all these blank plates here. You can tell that they use this same thing for a lot of different ones. Very obviously, mine isn't all that fancy because there's no things for slides or whatever. Like I got an awning and lights and heat controls and stuff. It's not much. But if you take a look right here, I added a DC volt monitor because these things, it just tells you, like here, battery, and it lights up these LEDs just telling you it's full. Well, what's full? Do they consider full 11 volts? Do they consider full 14 volts? I don't know what that is. I'm a tech guy. I'm a car guy. I'm an engineer. I want to know numbers. I need that readout. It's just in me. So if you guys are the same way, now I know for a fact that my batteries are at 13.8 volts DC. So I have that comfort knowing that everything is good in a healthy state of charge. This little blue rocker switch here, I added, but it fits in this knockout. Like I mentioned, I will add all this crap in the description in case you want to add it. And this guy here, I think this is like a battery gauge for a boat or something. I don't know. You just drill a hole in your cabinet and screw it in there. And then I wired it to the back of this panel. Super easy, not much to it. Now moving right here next to it, stupid simple. These little sticky key hanger things. You put your hat on there, you hang your coat, whatever. It's just nice. Keep your keys right next to the door so you know what's happening. And moving down the line a little bit, you guys will see here that I have a voltage monitor on my AC also. That way, whenever we're hanging out in the kitchen, I can easily and quickly tell the state of my DC from that gauge up there and my AC right here. And this is just a simple little plug-in thing, junk, cheap from Amazon. That's all I need it to do, is just be a voltage readout that I can easily get to. And this outlet I replaced with a USB-C and a USB-A charger along with a tamper-resistant plug because this is the most heavily used outlet in the camper. Everyone sets their phones here to charge and everything, or you plug the crock pot in or whatever. The original outlets that come in these things are absolute garbage. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. If you can replace these outlets and you can do so safely, I strongly suggest you will not regret the upgrade. Now we take the long walk over to the kitchen here. Really, the only thing I did over here, because it's already set up pretty solid, is the paper towel holder hanger thing here. Yeah, we're not stopping the presses with this technology, but this particular one is pretty snazzy because, listen to this. Yeah, it's cogged, like it has a retention spring in there. So whenever you're going down the road, your towels don't just come undone and you get wherever you're going and they're everywhere. It's nice that you have to like fight some tension to get this thing to move. And not to mention it's sleek, it's out of the way, it's nice. Now please excuse the crowdedness of what's going on in here, but you guys can tell this is a toy hauler. So there's a bunch of toys in here right now. We're actually planning for a trip at the moment, so I got crap everywhere. But in the event you do have a toy hauler, check out this little shelf right here. It has a rail for you to hang all your straps and tie downs from, and the top shelf is the size of an aerosol can. So not only can you put all your lubes and stuff up there, if you happen to be an MX guy like myself, it's just handy. You have a can of WD-40 or brake cleaner or chain lube or whatever. It's just right there, easily accessible to go. And whenever we have stuff plugged into the TV here, this is a nice convenient place for everybody to put their phones and everything because there's a plug right there. And I added a giant fire extinguisher on top of the small one that comes with the camper. Because, specifically for toy haulers, at any given time, there's probably at least 15 gallons of gas in this thing, in all the stuff. And if you're carrying extra cans, you got a propane stove here. Who knows what's going to happen? But either way, more fire protection is never a bad idea. Now, a lot of you guys are probably familiar with what I'm going to talk about here. These Furrion fridges, again, it's an OEM thing. Furrion and Lippert make everything for every camper. It's just, I don't care what brand you have. Chances are 90% of it is Furrion and Lippert. No matter like what it says on there, that's who makes it. Well, these particular camper style fridges, yes, they have like latches to open and close the door, but they're notoriously not good. If the door isn't set up perfectly, or if this thing gets racked in transit or whatever, the last thing you want is this thing opening halfway to your destination. Your crap's everywhere. Everything's melted. So you get these little child safety locks that you put on your kitchen cabinets, close it, and then lock that thing. Then you're guaranteed these things stay closed going down the road. It's just one of those peace of mind things that, dude, for the couple bucks, worth it. Dude, and another thing that's super simple, cheap, easy, and worth it, if you don't have a full-length mirror in your camper, this one came from Walmart, $6.99. Hang it on the back of your bathroom door. In case you're set up the same way this is, now you have a full-length mirror for the missus hanging out here doing whatever, and it kind of makes your little bathroom seem a little bit bigger. And if you want to, throw a coat rack on top to hang your wet towels. Well, guys, you've been waiting for this moment. We're finally in the love nest. If you have a similar setup like this, like most RVs, where the master bedroom is in the nose of the trailer, you probably have that dead space shelf thing on top of the bed where you can store different linens and pillows and everything. You guys see this net here? This is a stretchy, tailgate thing for a pickup truck. If you take your tailgate off, you put that in there, whatever. This was, I don't know. I don't even want to tell you because I don't remember how much it was, but it wasn't much. And this thing was freaking perfect for this because it's super stretchy. You can fit so much garbage in here, and it folds over. You can put a bunch. It's nice. Another thing, so your crap's going to stay where you put it, and it'll be there when you get where you're going. So guys, another one that's a total add-on that you definitely don't need, but if you're a nerd like me and you want to know the state of the systems of your camper, is this thing right here. I will bring you in so you can see it. This little beauty is like an everything AC monitor. Again, I got from Amazon for stupid cheap. I don't really know the actual application for this thing, but it works wonderfully for campers. Because directly below us here is the main fuse panel and breaker box for the camper. So I was able to put an amp clamp around the main incoming 30 amp supply, and this will accurately display how many amps your camper is using at any given time. Also give you an accurate voltage readout, the power, the frequency, energy, and power factor. So you can monitor your kilowatt hours, you can monitor your hours, you can monitor the hertz. For the guys across the pond that are running on 50, whatever, it's just nice to have. But either way, it's cool that we can have this readout and I can monitor all this crap from when I'm laying in bed. Let's say you're boondocking and you're running on the generator and you hear that thing going crazy outside the window. You're like, oh, what's going on? Now you don't need to throw on your boots and go outside and check on it at 2 a.m. You have a full readout of what's going on with the state of the health in your AC service in your camper. And in case you guys are wondering about the screen here, now we can shut the backlight off so it doesn't bother the missus in bed. But if you want to check it out, turn it on and you know what's going on. Now guys, like I mentioned, you will be seeing these things again. This is the exhaust and the intake for the furnace that just happens to be underneath the fridge inside. Again, this is just a thing to keep the critters out of here. Because especially in the wintertime, the fall, whatever, you're running this thing to keep heat inside your trailer. Well, whenever you shut it off and it's not so hot, critters love to live in these things. So the better you can keep stuff out, the better off you are. Since we're here, right here, we'll touch on it. I strongly suggest wheel covers because in the event, I don't know, maybe you're a seasonal or a weekender or this thing's parked somewhere, whatever. Keeping your tires out of the sun I cannot tell you the immense benefits because, again, I know the broken record thing. The factory OEM tires that come on these things are notoriously junk. And if you've ever had a blowout on a camper, I don't need to tell you. I mean, look at this. These things are garbage. This thing blows out going down the highway at 65. There's a solid chance it's ripping off half of your camper. Either way, do yourself a favor. Make sure you keep the tires pressurized to what they're supposed to be and cover them whenever you're not driving. These will greatly increase the life of your tires. And since we are right here, these scissor wheel chocks, by far the way to go. Especially if you have a tandem setup here, you put these in there, crank them down with a 3/4 inch gun or whatever, it's definitely the way to go. Now let's just take a gander here in the storage compartment and see what we got going on here. Now guys, I was just talking about tires. Yeah, see, I put some labels inside of here so I know what size they are in the event of a blowout, and I know the correct PSI to keep in them all the time. Take your notes. So right up here in the front, once you do this a couple times, you will get the feel for it of what needs to go where, because what you need to access and how easily you need access to it when you get to where you're going. So this will be different for everybody, but this is just kind of the way mine laid out. So right in the front here, I got the incoming water filter. So whenever you go to a camp, or even if you're filling up at your house, it's not a bad idea to try to filter some of that stuff before it goes into the holding tank. And you'll notice here, I got some snazzy attachments on this thing. This is just kind of like a stress relieving whip. Again, junk, cheap from Amazon. I think this is like a 5-pack for a couple bucks. I don't know. I hate to guess at numbers, but Yuns will see if you check it out. And then on either end, I have those quick disconnects. If you don't know what these things are, dude, it is life-changing for using water attachments. These are just like the chucks on a pneumatic air hose, but it's for your garden hose stuff. So I have a 1/4 turn ball valve and quick disconnect chucks on here. So whenever this thing is all put together, it's easy to put together and take apart. It's easy to drain. Dude, the better you can make your setup and tear down, the more time you're camping, man. And right next to that thing, water pressure regulator. Again, with the male and female disconnects. Because I have been to some campgrounds that there's not enough water pressure to even come out of the spigot. And there's other places that are like 90, 100 PSI. And with how these things are constructed, I strongly suggest you do not put 100 PSI of water pressure into these things, because you're going to have yourself a rough weekend. So you get one of these things, you set it to, I don't know, somewhere between 40 and 60 max. I would not go over 60. And then you are guaranteed that you will never have anything above that amount of pressure in your water system. It's an absolute must-have, and this always goes in the water setup. Now, along with the water stuff, I have a Y, again, with the quick disconnects. So whenever you go to your campsite, you only have one spigot per spot. So if you use that one spigot to hook up the water to your camper, you're quite literally hosed. You suck. Because you can't use it anywhere else unless you give yourself an outlet. So the first thing that I do on the spigot when we get there is put this Y on there, and then I hook up the freshwater line on one side to the camper, and the other side is just a general use hose. The kids can fill up their pool, we can do water balloons, you can spray off your truck. I don't know. It's just nice to have access to water. So do this thing first so you're not sad about it later. Now we're getting to the fun stuff. Yeah, the old stink pipe. Now, I'm not going to bore you guys to death with the particulars of this because, let's be honest, it's a crappy topic. I know, dad talk. Either way, you want to keep this stuff separate for good reason. So I'm not going to dig through this because, obviously, it's used. And, you like to have gloves when you're doing stuff like this. So you see on here, I have a grayish, blackish hose. That is a hose specifically dedicated to washing out the black tank whenever I'm done with everything. So I know just from the color of the hose, it won't get mixed up with anything else. And if you take note, I don't know if you can see in there, it has the quick disconnects like everything else because it's super easy to use. So I have the Rhino, Camco, whatever, Flexi pipe kit. Usually 2 15-foot pieces is more than enough to do whatever you need to do. But hey man, if you got the space to carry more, you probably won't regret it. Let's just, I don't know, maybe you're camping with your buddy and one of his hoses got busted or you left something at home. Yeah, it's nice. You're camping, be friendly. And there's some other attachments in here like an elbow and just weird stuff that you may need to hook up to go in wherever you're going. Like I mentioned, I'll list all this stuff, but I'm not particularly going to dig through it without my PP. Now, digging on in here a little bit further, you can see here that I have a spare power cord for the camper because you never know what's going to happen. Yeah, the one that I'm currently plugged in with, I take with us, but this one I primarily use for camping. That way they both get some exercise and you have a spare. Either way, it's not a bad idea. Tearing some more crap out of here. Obviously, you got your folding lawn chairs because what kind of camping would be camping without a place to sit down and drink beer? Going on down the line here, we call this the old poop chute. You know, this is the ramp that your sewage hose sits on. That way you can keep your slope. Another good thing, it's an absolute must-have. I've seen people try to rig stuff together without one of these, and it's honestly a mess. I mean, for how cheap these are, just get one. Keep it in here, I promise you. Back on in here further, I got myself an electrical bag. Now, guys, we can actually go through this one because there's a lack of poo involved, you know? So, first things first, surge protector. Absolute must-have. Depends on what your camper is, a 50 amp, 30 amp, whatever. These things vary. There's a gazillion of them. I don't know. I'll just link the one that I have because it's the one that I have. But you never know what you're plugging into at a campground that you may never been before. I don't care. It's just such a good idea. Something happens, you know, somebody else backfeeds their podium and fries your crap or a lightning strike or whatever. Believe you want something between you and your source voltage at the campground. And this guy could very well save your butt in a situation like that. Digging on down here further, you got just a couple 120 volt extension cords. You know, I don't know, whatever you're doing. Just extension cords, man. It's a good idea to keep a couple of them. I think these are both 25 footers, whatever. So we got a solid 50 feet of whatever you need to do, power. Now we're into like weird adapters and stuff. This is a 30 amp to 120 volt regular, like 15 amp thing. So if I want to plug this guy in here to a regular extension cord, you can do that. Obviously, you're going to be limited to the amperage of your extension cord and what that is plugged into, but either way, you can run the minor stuff through your main supply port. Another good deal to have. Along with the adapter theme here, this is a 30 amp to a 50 amp adapter. So wherever you're at, I don't know, you got the wrong cord or you got the wrong feed or whatever. I mean, it's just a good idea to have different options for what's going on. So if you don't have the right plug, like I said, I'll link. And further on down in here, it's just more adapters and more of the same stuff because, you know, I like to have 4 of everything. Like I mentioned, I'm overkill, but I usually don't lack for stuff. Now, digging down in here a little bit more, got ourselves another tote. And I just noticed, I looked at the screen, the sun's like crazy right now. It's late in the day, so if you're getting a bunch of shadows, my bad. But this is the time we got to do this. Yeah. So guys, this tote is appropriately labeled water because that's what's going on in here. Now, like I mentioned with the other hose, that one was black/gray or whatever because I use it for the black/gray tank. So it stays with all the poopy stuff. This one, bright blue. This is the freshwater hose. That is the only thing it gets used for. It's hooked up, goes to fresh water. That's it. I think this is a 50 footer and it's one of those like Flexzilla ones. Dude, freaking awesome. It doesn't kink, like it's good in cold weather. I strongly suggest, again, with the quick connect fittings. Moving on down. The green one. This is our general purpose hose. This goes on the other end of that Y. So, you know, the kids are playing, filling up pools, whatever you want to do. This is just an extra hose. You got to do extra stuff. It's a different color because it's a different hose. It's a good idea to separate this stuff since we're dealing with fresh and foul water systems. These guys here, just a couple extra hose whips for this little tank thing I made. I mean, I made an extra like transfer tank to bring extra water with us just in case you run out. If you're interested, I made a video specifically on that thing. Honestly, it's pretty snazzy. So I'll link that up here and in the description. I suggest you check it out, but stick around to see the end of this one first. And then down in here, there's all kinds of goodies. I have a 50-foot spool of 1/2-inch PEX tubing because that is how these things are plumbed. So in the event I have a blowout or something happens or whatever, I have the hose to fix the interior plumbing on this thing. And to accompany that is a PEX kit. It's got the crimpers in there, it's got the cutters in there, it's got an assortment of like 40 or 50 different barbed fittings, you know, 90s, tees, plugs, whatever you want. But for the little bit of investment this took to keep with me, I have the peace of mind. If I have a blowout under the kitchen cabinet or something, I can fix the dang thing there at the campsite, and I'm not just stuck without water. Further on down here, just a regular garden hose nozzle for whatever you want to do, and a bunch of extra fittings and stuff, you know, just anything and everything you could think of water related that might be cool to keep extra up. You know, some more of these stress relieving whip things, yeah, these male and female things, some 90-degree adapters for going into the freshwater thing. Just, it's not a bad idea to have extra stuff when you're out there and you don't have access to a Home Depot, you know. And over here is much more so the man cave, or the camper garage, I like to call it. So right on top, the easy to get to. These are them wheel leveling chocks. You know, those ramp ones that you like drive up on. Game changer. It's so much easier than like stacking those Legos or using 2x6s or something. Solid add-on. We got ourselves a tool bag, which I will take in the garage and we can go through this later. But believe me, you need tools. This guy right here, a little organizer of little doodads and add-ons and, I don't know, just crap I thought might break and would be cool to have. Digging further back in here, like I mentioned, I like to be prepared. This is like a 200 and some piece Husky Mechanics toolkit. You know, they had on sale at Christmas time for like 99 bucks or whatever. Dude, saved me so many times. I'm not saying this is a necessity, but dude, if you can swing it, so worth it. You cannot be over prepared when you're camping. I cannot stress that enough. Get all this crap out of the way. Digging back in here even further. This, I know yins are going to think I'm joshing you. This is a multi-purpose dual voltage welder. Yep, you heard me. This is a welding machine. This is a stick welder, it is a MIG welder, it is a TIG welder, and it is dual voltage for 120 or 240. So if you're rocking a generator, or if you're at a campground that gives you access to 50 amp 240 or whatever, you know, these things are garbage. And I cannot tell you how many times I've seen someone stranded at a campground or on the side of the road with a spring shackle ripped off the back, or the jack stand broke or something. Dude, you could be the king of the campground. You're walking around with a welder because you are the guy that prepared yourself for anything. And look, it's small. It takes up almost no room. And believe it or not, I actually did a video on this thing too. Check it out up there or down in the description. But I'm telling you, man, I cannot tell you how handy it'd be to have one of these things. Now, on that notion of not needed, but fantastic to have, an air compressor. Yeah, I know it's a little overboard, but like I mentioned before, this thing is a toy hauler. So we take this thing to races, we take it riding. There's always quads and dirt bikes and stuff. And, you know, it's good to have access to air. So back in there behind the hot water tank, I'll bring you guys in so you can get a little bit better peek, but it's a cluster in here. It's one of those Fortress Harbor Freight oilless ultra quiet deals. I put it in there, I plugged it into an outlet, I screwed it to the floor, and it is fantastic. It has like a 2.5 gallon reservoir. It works really well. And this is one of those Harbor Freight Diablo 50-foot hose reels that I just mounted to the ceiling up under here in the storage bay. It's just, I cannot tell you how nice that thing is. Sticking with the Harbor Freight theme, got us a 3-ton bottle jack, because in the event you blow a tire on this thing on the side of the highway or something, these things are huge. They're tall off the ground. So like a regular like scissor jack in your car isn't going to cut it. You know, you need something like this that has some serious stroke to it so you can get this thing off the ground. You know, I keep on stressing this, whenever you're camping, you're on your own. So the stuff you brought with you is the stuff you're living on. And there's other dumb, superfluous stuff in here, like wasp spray and some more accessories for the air compressor. There's an old junk impact gun in there, an old die grinder, stuff like that. But that's pretty much the deal. I'll stick you in there so you can see what's up. So here we go. There is that Fortress air compressor. It just fits in here perfectly. Like, it was absolutely made to do that. And then I just took some 3/4 EMT conduit clamps and screwed it right to the floor. It worked out perfectly. And then the hose reel is mounted right here on the ceiling. I got some bungee cords just to hold it up out of the way. And then the back of the hose reel plugs right into the air compressor. And then here we just got some extra crap. Like I told you, there's some extra air tools, you know, a tire chuck, an impact gun. And yeah, it works out perfectly well. And everything tucks right behind the hot water tank. So guys, the tool bag. This is kind of what I've compiled together to be a beautiful mashup of what I think is reasonable to carry with you without having too much. Yeah, the guy that just told you he has an air compressor and an arc welder in the front of his camper. Either way, we're going to go through this because I think it's just good, valuable stuff to keep with you. First things first, right on top, a blackjack tire repair kit. Now, this isn't like if you have a blowout, you still have a blowout. But this is in the event you get a nail or pick up something sharp. It's a plug kit. This is a really good tire repair kit for on the side of the road, at a truck stop, whatever. This thing has gotten me out of so many binds, and you can tell that it's well used. This thing has been a lifesaver in the past, and I strongly suggest. Now, this may cater to the more nerdy people such as myself, but if you are a prepper and you have the knowledge, I suggest you do the same. A random bin of terminals and crimps and just electrical fix-it stuff. We got some Wagos here for 120 internal wiring, some random wire nuts because you never know what you're going to run into. As much as I hate them, these 12-volt Scotch locks, yes, I am not a fan. However, if you're in a bind and this is what you have, it's a lifesaver. I don't really recommend them, but you know, when you need it, you need it. Had some regular spades and forks, some regular butt connectors. It's good to have this stuff laying around in the event you need to make an electrical repair. Now, sticking with the electrical theme here, I have a good multi-purpose DMM. Now, this is not a high dollar showstopper by any means, but it does do the stuff I want it to do. And it's just a really good thing to keep this around because you'll never know when you need a DMM. Now we're getting deeper into the nitty gritty here. I got myself a DeWalt 20 volt max charger and an M12 Milwaukee charger because these are kind of my brands. So whenever I go places, I take a different bag specifically with power tools. And this way I know that I always have a charger, so it's not a thing. It's in there. I don't have to remember it. Further on down here in the bottom is kind of where just the junk goes to die. Have an old ball peen hammer because you never know when a hammer is a good idea. Some random superfluous screwdrivers, a pair of old channel locks that I won't care if I lose or destroy or, you know, whatever. And then just a bunch of random gauge wiring because, you know, a 10 gauge for the main battery feeds on the camper and then some regular THHN for interior wiring, whatever. It's just, you know, it's nice to have some extra wire laying around because you don't know what you're going to find. Down in here, we got a pack of zip ties, another pair of channel locks, some vice grips, an adjustable pry bar, an extra battery lead that I made up, some electrical tape, some wire strippers slash crimpers. These things are absolutely fantastic, but unfortunately, they're Craftsman, and I got these things about 20 years ago. I don't know if they still make these. I will do my best to try to find a link for them. Continuing on down here, we got some duct tape because why not? Some Teflon tape on top of the already water repair stuff we saw in the water bin. A C-clamp. I know it's nothing earth-shattering, but this would be enough to hold a spring shackle onto a frame if you needed to re-weld it. Another little spool of wire for anything you might come across. A lighter, because you don't know what you might need. And a set of standard and metric Allens. Oh yeah, and a pair of safety squints. Whew-wee. Man, guys, that was a lot of talking, but I appreciate you sticking around with me if you made it this far. But like I mentioned at the beginning, this is just a kind of random, has no rhyme or reason to it, but I've done this a time or two, and I feel like I've put together a list of stuff that you definitely need to have, along with a solid list of stuff I think I need to have, not necessarily a must-have for the average fellow. But if you're like me, you know, there's pretty much like a full NASCAR pit stop in the front of this thing. It's like there's no such thing as being over prepared. So we got stuff for wiring, we got stuff for plumbing, we got stuff for particular DC or AC electrical repairs. We have stuff for DC and AC electrical diagnostics with all the stuff and the readouts on the inside of the camper. We got fire protection. We got fire starters, less fire, more fire, one of those deals. We have an arc welder. We have an air compressor. We got a bottle jack, all the hoses, all the sewer hoses. Dude, we can go over this all day. But like I mentioned, I will do my best to link all of this stuff in the description. And, I kind of glossed over some of the stuff, like especially the poop pipe, because I didn't feel like digging through that bin with just my bare mitts here. But it culminates to a lot of stuff. So be patient zinging through that. I'll do my best to try to describe everything so it's easier for you guys to see what everything is. But like I mentioned, I got, let's just say 99% of this stuff all came off of Amazon. And it wasn't super expensive, because if it was, I wouldn't have it. Trust me. I'm one of the most frugal, cheap dudes that you will ever meet. And it's still like, I like having nice stuff. I don't mind blowing money on some stuff. But for the most part, I'm a cheapo, I'm a dad. If I can make do, I make do. That's why I carry all this crap to fix stuff, because I don't like paying other people to do it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. And like I mentioned, this was kind of like a viewer requested thing. So please keep the comments rolling. I'm sure that I missed something, or a lot of things that you guys definitely need to have, or if you recommend something that there's needed to be there that wasn't, or like if you like something like, hey, that's cool, I'm going to add it to mine. Dude, start that conversation in the comments. That's awesome. That's what keeps this rolling. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and you can set up your camper for your perfect situation. So we'll see you guys next time.